The sign outside D'Ambrosio's promised open 24 hours, and the sign was technically right. But the light it cast in the pre-dawn grouse-dark gloom had the unsteady pulse of a heart that wanted to stop and was being talked out of it. The neon sputtered. The neon resumed. 3:47 a.m. or 3:48. The clock on the kitchen wall, a monstrous grease-stained beast that had been there longer than anyone working at D'Ambrosio's, including the somewhere out past the parking lot, the river ran slow and silty, indifferent to whether the sign was on or off, indifferent to whether it was Texas on this side or Louisiana on the other. The river had its own program. John Frank, grad student, mixed media journalist, whatever that meant this week, late-night waiter at the nexus of Grouse-Dark, Texas, Louisiana, this riverboat-shaped restaurant wedged between reason and riot, between two states of being and two states of the union.
He chronicled Grouse-Dark's oddities for a website nobody he knew read, his thesis advisor included.
He tried to map the town's intersecting reality, its hidden frequencies, the way yesterday sometimes bled into next Tuesday without so much as a by your name. He saw it in the patrons who looked slightly out of sync, their eyes holding reflections of streets that did not exist on city maps. He heard it in the static between radio stations late at night, whispers that sounded suspiciously like stage directions.
Was he a witness? A participant? Hard to say. He felt like a character in someone else's slightly unhinged narrative, waiting for his scene, suspended between acts. The fool, maybe, poised at the cliff edge with one foot dangling over the abyss.
Inside, the fluorescent tubes hummed a B-flat thrill. John Frank had stopped hearing it the way you stop hearing a refrigerator, which is to say he heard it constantly, in his moments, in his silence, in the soft place behind his sternum where things he was trying not to think about made their nest. He wiped the counter again. The steel was cool and indifferent beneath his palm. The movement was automatic, a small ritual against the larger chaos, the sort of repetitive prayer a person makes when they have stopped believing in prayer, but cannot quite stop the hands. The bell over the front door rang once. It was not Fraser. It was too early for Fraser. A man John did not recognize entered, sat at booth 6, ordered coffee without looking up from a paperback whose title was peeling off the spine. John brought the coffee. The man drank the coffee. The man left $2 on the table and stood up and folded the paperback into his coat pocket, and on the way out, paused at the door and said without turning around,
"Watch yourself tonight, brother. The walls are thin."
Then he was gone, and the bell rang again behind him, and the wet asphalt of the parking lot took his footprints like it took everyone's, and that was that. John stood holding a damp rag, looking at booth 6, where the coffee cup was still steaming.
He had not, he was almost certain, told the man it was night. The clock on the wall said it was almost 4 in the morning. The man had said night, as if the day had a different name where he came from.
John folded the napkin from booth 6, white, paper, cheap. He folded it once, twice, 3 times, and then a 4th, into a shape that was not quite anything but resembled, if you squinted at it from the right angle and were willing to be generous, a flower. He tucked it into the back of his notebook. He did this without thinking and forgot about it almost immediately, and did not for the next several months understand why he had done it. The bell over the kitchen door, the back door, the one customers were not supposed to use, did not jingle. It jangled. A discordant chord slicing through the hum, snapping the fluorescence back into focus. Fraser Temple did not so much walk in as coalesce from the shadows of the kitchen alcove. Leather bomber jacket, stained with substances that might have been solder flux, might have been hot sauce, might have been transmission fluid, certainly were not, at this point, identifiable. Hair, a chaotic sculpture defying gravity, and 3 of the laws of thermodynamics. Notebook tucked under his arm like a holy text, or a bomb schematic, and possibly both. His gaze landed on John. The gaze had weight. The gaze had been waiting.
Still chasing shadows, Johnny?
The voice was a gravelly rumble, sandpaper on velvet. He pulled up a stool and straddled it backward, and instantly commanded the space, as if he had built the diner around himself by sitting in it.
Or are the shadows finally chasing you?
Just trying to make it make sense, Joneses. The old refrain tasted like ash, the way it always did. Keeping up with Fraser Temple was like trying to map a hurricane with a crayon. You did the work, knowing the work would be wrong. The wrongness was part of the point.
Fraser laughed, a sound like rock tumbling in a metal drum. He tapped the cover of his notebook. Diagrams adorned it that looked suspiciously like circuit boards woven into mandalas.
Sense is overrated. Structure is the illusion. You know that.
He pulled out his phone, or rather, the customized jury-rigged device that served Fraser as a phone. Its casing chipped, wires peeking out like frayed nerves, screen